Hi, everyone, and welcome back to our fourth session of the day. I hope you all had a really nice screen break. Went to the bathroom, got a coffee, stretched your legs, did what you needed to do. But if you're in New South Wales, I hope you stayed inside because it's a bit wet outside, and I don't think anyone wants to be out there at the moment. But our fourth and next presentation of the day is all about leveraging business architecture to influence people, tech, and data process improvement. And this is used as an example at Sydney Waters. So we have our speaker, Konrad Kempe from Sydney Waters, who is a business architect there, and he will be discussing that topic with you all. So firstly, I'd like to just thank again our sponsors, Nintex, for being involved in the event. But with that said, I will hand over to Konrad, who will kick off the presentation for today.
Hello. Welcome. Yeah, tomorrow we'll have a sunny day again on our waterways. Today, not so much. It's quite a topical thing for us at Sydney Water, but I'll talk more about that in a second. Thank you, Isaac, for the introduction. And yes, so far enjoyed listening to some of the very experienced people, especially John just recently. About all the insights and process improvement. I hope you get something out of this presentation as well. Bit hard in this one-way event, but what I hope to do is that you participate in some polls, 3 questions as we go through. Just should give everyone a bit more insights about where the lay of the land and some topics to talk to. Right. So, yes, one of our more recent changes in the business has been the leadership team, and something that we're starting to really be more aware of is the acknowledgement of country and respect the traditional custodians of the land and waters on which we live, work, live, and learn. We pay respect to elders past and present. There you go. It's really been a change at Sydney Water with a new leadership team and change of strategy operating model. So this is really the scene setting for where business architecture gets interesting. I'll talk to that in a second. I thought, first of all, it'd be good to sort of understand what Sydney Water does. In many cases, Sydney Water is what we call often a Z topic. Nobody really engages with the water utility until it becomes an A topic and we start getting into the media, such with lots of recent events of drought, fire, and now lots of rain and even floods again. Something which keeps us busy, but still, key is, of course, to make sure that we keep the operations running for customers. I'm happy to say it's still going well, even in current events. And as said, tomorrow the sun is going to shine again. So very much looking forward to that. As you can see, a lot of heavy asset intense operations across the city, ranging from the Blue Mountains to several key, what we call treatment plants at the ocean and in between. So ocean sites are Malabar, Bondi, and North Head. If you will, very large production sites in that sense. And Sydney Water has many assets which are very old. In total, Sydney Water is over about 130 years old. So in many cases, that represents a lot of challenges to make sure the operations work on all kinds of assets over the different generations. So I hope that gives you some context. Business architecture. So this is the first poll. Isaac, I hope people can participate and really give a view. Who's heard of that? Who's engaged with that in their organization? Normally I would say hands up, but here we are online.
right, I've put the question into the discussion forum, and hopefully we get some responses from people. I know I've heard of business architecture, so I'm sure a lot of people have, but it'd be great to see people's answers. If everyone wants to check the discussion forum and just to give us a simple yes or no. Yes, we have yes, 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 yes with an exclamation mark.
Okay, good. That's really good. Gives me a bit of a sense of what to talk to. The next question related to that: who's had experience with projects or programs tripping over each other? Usually I get a bit more response from the audience on that kind of pointed question.
We've got yes with 2 exclamation marks from Loretta. Yes.
Oh, good. More exclamation marks. Very good. Okay, right. So people are listening. That's always encouraging and engaged, thinking about it. So I guess when we talk about business architecture, the context is really, I suppose, strategic changes to the business. As mentioned before, we've had a bit of a change in leadership recently at Sydney Water, so also conversation around changing our operating model. Several changes across the organisation. I guess the most interesting one here is really where we talk about business of tomorrow. Really a BD, business development type setup as part of the organisation. Something very, I guess, new, if you appreciate the context of a monopolistic water utility, but really acknowledging that there is competition coming to different parts of the market, and customer demands have changed, and we really need to think about responding to that. So that's the context of several programs being initiated. And when I mentioned before about programs tripping over each other, this is really where business architecture helps. So on the right, you see a little bit the view of what we call our business capability model. So business capability model is really a suite of what business capabilities, and these represent the what we do. So an example of that would be contract management. It's a capability that we need, and we need it in all kinds of different scenarios, meaning when we talk about our processes, we need them for different processes. So processes where we engage, for example, in business development with customers, but also on the supplier side. So what does that mean if we have several programs? Let's just take the business development and the supply-related programs. They don't really feel the natural connection. So what we look at from a business architecture perspective is actually show these connections through the mapping against a business capability, and really help shape scoping and sequencing of these programs. So scoping is obviously clarity on, for example, this contract management capability. How do we make sure that the respective programs actually touch that, know they need to align on such a capability, and really have a conversation around sequencing, meaning this capability actually represents people, process, data, and technology, as in how able are we actually to do that and support these programs. And on the flip side, some of these programs might actually be looking to positively impact these capabilities, to support whatever they need to deliver to the organization. So this kind of heat mapping exercise helps really that bringing together clarity of the programs. It's, I guess, of course, rather abstract, but especially in that strategic sort of context, we're really looking at bringing these things together at a relative high level, and very often early days of these programs. So that's really much how we look at it. High level, looking at the organization through a set of business capabilities, heat mapping the different programs against it, but also the strategic outcomes to understand where the demand is, where do we really need to move the dial on certain business capabilities. As an example, in business of tomorrow, pipeline management. So actually having capability in place to manage a pipeline, the people, the process, data technology to really go to market, as an example. So I hope that gives a bit of insight. The next question, for coming to the next session, how do the organizations have process management in place? Do they have a formal setup? Heard about programs, program management, PMOs, process improvement approaches. What about process management? So I hope again we get some notes in the discussion forum.
So the question is in the discussion forum, guys. So just pop your answers in there. Do you have a process management framework within your organization? Yeah. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Seems like people do. Yes, but never as good as we like it to be. That's come through.
Oh, yes. Very good. Never as good as I would like it to be. Yes. So picking up on that, never as good as we'd like it to be. As our operating model is evolving, same with our business process management framework. This is an overview of that. The colorful element here in the middle is really the key concept to what we call process councils. So these are BAU forums of managers and subject matter experts looking at the respective end-to-end business process. And really, we ask them to focus on the Plan, Resource, Review, Act, the management cycle, or management operating system, as we call it at Sydney Water, and focus on 4 elements of process maturity. These are ownership, understanding, improvement, and performance. That's really the setup of our process councils. Now, our process councils, they're also evolving, and I'll talk to that evolution in a second. Always want them to be better. We always want the whole ecosystem to be better. And as we've realized, to drive them to be better, we really need to support them on a couple of things. So one is making sure that the managers really are able to connect the objectives, the business objectives, to the business processes. So translate what we want to do as a business in those respective areas against the processes. That's important so we can start talking metrics, as an example, across those business processes. It also helps us refine, obviously, the shaping of process improvement when we have metrics, and also helps us get a better understanding of that end-to-end business process through that kind of dialogue. Across the other processes, we want obviously the cogs to align. So it's really making sure that process councils work together with each other on topics that require alignment, typical up-downstream interface type issues. Lastly, and this is again coming back to the operating model conversation, is really making sure we're able to integrate our respective functions in the leading, guiding, but also supporting, enabling areas that have a cross-process view of the world. So that could be, for example, our governance assurance functions. When we look at our enterprise risks, they have certain controls right across the business. So making sure we bring that kind of function into the conversation. But also we have several supporting functions. Digital, our IT, of course, has a cross-business type engagement, always looking to make sure the different applications support the processes of the business and help the business work how we work. What we're really looking also is to have a central support function for these process councils as we mature and grow these. This is really a joint effort, I suppose, from the area of transformation and governance assurance across the operating model. Again, something that we're looking at with a model around custodians as part of the new operating model to make sure we can integrate them and help them get towards our level of maturity where we can really talk about managing end-to-end as a business. Okay, so gonna speed up. Process maturity. Next question. We get more yeses here. This time, how many key elements does that process maturity framework have in the respective organization? So it's a number.
So just pop the question there again, guys. Actually, Konrad, while we're waiting for answers, Loretta has asked, in your operations space, how do you distinguish between service hub and delivery arms?
In our operations, how do we distinguish? I wish I could see this. Sorry. So let me go back. So service and hub, is that I'm assuming the question here?
Yeah.
Right. So our key differentiation, I suppose, there is our customer service areas look at billing, look at metering and billing as a focus, but also several, and this is mainly for citizen or so-called residential customers, and also business customer type servicing. Our customer hub is really around exceptions, typically focused on service faults. Like on a day-to-day where we have a lot of rain influencing our network, they're coordinating a lot of customer cases, inquiries, and the respective crews in the customer delivery space, ensuring all kinds of break fix work on assets, properties, to make sure that supply is secured, and also working with other agencies like the state emergency services to make sure there's a certain coordination. So that's really the customer hub's job there. Hope that gives her some insights.
Yeah, it does. And she says thank you. In terms of process maturity framework, we've got 8, 5, 7, 8. So there's some answers for you.
Excellent. Excellent. Okay. So there we go. We focus on 4 elements as part of our business with a deliberate focus, what we call keep it simple as one of our strategic objectives and focus areas as part of the strategy. Really looking to get the engagement across the different business areas, so-called process councils, to get, I guess, a bit of a, in some cases, a bit of a back to basics approach, given the several changes to the operating model and in a broader sense, several impact from different programs, so we can then restart that maturity journey. I'd love to get a reply from those people who have replied with a number. If they think, for example, if they have 8, that some element of their 8 wouldn't fit into one of these 4 dimensions. That would be great. It'd be really interesting to know. So, okay, got to look at time. One of our key elements, I suppose, next to the managers and SMEs, looking at our process councils, and of course different projects driving process improvement and using tools. Data insights, a bit like what John was presenting before, is our conversation around process understanding. So yes, there's process maps, and the way that we started rolling out and supporting our process understanding is what we call landing pages in our central process tool. What we've started to do is create views for the respective teams and business units. As I said, lots of changes as part of the operating model, which really gives a view on their processes. Of course, processes cut across several teams or business units very often, but it really helps to get that visibility and that common understanding accelerated through that kind of visibility, and at the same time visibility to all teams. So teams, businesses, business units interfacing, they can have better conversations on the what kind of issues, etc. They can just pinpoint it faster. And of course, this helps our process improvement projects. Last point, coming back to that section across the operating model about guiding, but also supporting functions, really understanding that they need a view on our processes, but they also need it on a view on understanding related to what's important to them. This is where we, again, bring them to the table with this architecture system, I suppose, giving them visibility. As an example, here is our drinking water quality management plan. It's a requirement by the health regulator, by New South Wales Health, that we have this in place, and it's a framework, I guess, a bit like an ISO framework, if you will, a bit more prescriptive against 12 elements, and we make sure we have that visibility and support that assurance team that way. Similar controls, we have enterprise risks, which we have to have controls in place across all kinds of processes, having that visibility. On the enabler side, talked about digital, them having the view and understanding to really bring that together, to know which applications support which processes and how bring them together, these respective functions across the operating model. So we really mature our element of process understanding for the different managers and the process councils or in these cross-business functions, but also very much respective process participants doing the work, but also projects that these process participants engage with. Right, so looking at the time, I think I'd like to say thank you and open the forum to Q&A round. And would be great if I get a view on those process maturity elements with the numbers where people have called out more than 4. if they think those 4 are represented in those 4 dimensions. Sorry, there are 8 or 7 are represented in those 4 dimensions.
Great, thanks, Konrad. That was fantastic, and I think it was really great that people were getting involved in your polling questions, which was fantastic. It's good to see people have been either thinking about or have been having similar issues as one another. It's been great to see that. So I've asked everyone to ask away any questions that I think I might just kick off with one question for you, a little bit about just, I've been asking this question because it's great to hear, success stories, but what have been your biggest highlights or successes over the last 12 months, particularly since, COVID started, but also what are you looking to do to maintain any of that momentum moving forward as well?
I guess the momentum is an easier question. It's a certain program of work across these 4 dimensions of maturity, but also growing our business architecture space. Just thinking about the COVID piece, we really ran into that working from home environment quite rapidly. We also, at the same time, had, just precursing to that, and starting and traveling right through that March and onwards, operating model changes. So, really that process understanding, facilitating that process understanding through these online tools, these business unit landing pages, have really been valuable to the organisation to really drive that visibility, and has been accepted by those areas quite well. We'll continue to roll those out and increase the depth of them, meaning really this integration with these other functions across the operating model.
Fantastic. And just some added things coming in from some of the questions from before. Christina said talent and competency besides the 4. And then it looks like we've got some more numbers coming through about, elements of process maturity frameworks. And some people are saying 5. I know that you said that you guys were running 4 and you had your 4 core elements there, but it seems that people are kind of running very similar frameworks in a way, but talent and competency has stood out from this discussion, it seems.
Interesting, yes, very interesting. We have that hidden, I suppose, under the headlines of some of those, but really calling that as an element on its own is really interesting way of looking at it.
Fantastic. So guys, if there's any other questions, feel free to pop them in while we have a minute left. But if not, I might, we'll just see, we'll leave it a second. But while we're doing that, I'll just thanks Konrad for joining us today and being a part and sharing your insights and talking about business architecture at the OPEX event. It's very, very insightful and valuable to hear. So thank you so much for joining us today and being a part of that and interacting with the audience as well. That's really great to see. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. And thank you for the participation.
Not a problem. So guys, if you do have any other questions for Konrad post-event, feel free to connect with him. I'm sure he'd be okay with you guys connecting with him on anything like LinkedIn. So definitely go ahead and do that, and feel free to reach out and talk to him there if you've got anything further to talk about. So I would highly recommend you do that. But with that being said, we'll move into our next presentation of the day, and that will be Kirsty Hosier from TAFE New South Wales. So we'll see you guys all in the next session. But thanks again, Konrad.
Thank you.